The chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of ancient machinery awakening from its long dormancy. Dr. Alina Vasquez stood at the center of the room, her fingers trembling with a mixture of excitement and apprehension as she engaged the control panel embedded in the stone floor. A subtle vibration coursed upward through her boots, a reminder that beneath their feet lay secrets buried for millennia. With a soft hiss and a cascade of iridescent light, the holographic projection sprang to life. Before the assembled team, the air shimmered and coalesced into a sprawling battlefield frozen in time. Towering cities, their spires gleaming with an otherworldly sheen, were engulfed in chaos. Figures clad in armor of translucent alloys clashed amidst bursts of pulsing energy weapons that painted the sky in streaks of blue and crimson. "Look at this," Alina murmured, eyes wide as she moved closer to the projection. "This isn't just a war. It's a technological and cultural cataclysm." Captain Malik Wren stood nearby, arms crossed, his expression unreadable in the flickering light. "The scale is staggering. Entire regions leveled, entire populations lost." Professor Anil Chowdhury stepped forward, adjusting his spectacles as he scanned the layers of data streaming from the archives. "These records, they're more than just military logs. They're cultural narratives, political treatises, even personal accounts. This civilization documented its downfall in painful detail." Alina nodded, tracing a finger through the holographic smoke that rose from a crumbling tower. "It's haunting to see the parallels with our own expeditions, the divisions, the power struggles." A low murmur spread through the room as the team absorbed the weight of the revelation. The ancient war was not a distant myth, but a vivid, documented tragedy with lessons etched in light and sound. Suddenly, the scene shifted. The battlefield gave way to scenes of negotiation, desperation, and ultimately betrayal. Leaders once allied turned on each other, their ambitions and fears igniting a spiral of destruction. The holograms flickered, voices overlapping in multiple ancient tongues, unintelligible but charged with emotion. Captain Wren's voice cut through the tension. "We're seeing history repeat itself, fear, mistrust, the lust for control. If we're not careful, we'll follow their path to ruin." The room fell silent again, the gravity of his words sinking in. Later that evening, under the cold glow of emergency lights, Wren faced a faction within the expedition that questioned the leadership's decisions. The air was thick with unresolved conflict, voices low but heated. "We can't afford to fracture now," Wren said firmly. "The planet's secrets are too important, and the stakes too high." A woman from the dissenting group retorted, "And what if you're the one leading us astray? What if we're the ones repeating history?" The conversation was cut short by a sudden alert from the base's perimeter sensors. Tensions snapped taut, but Wren's calm presence kept the situation from boiling over. Meanwhile, Professor Chowdhury sat alone in his dimly lit quarters, the glow from his workstation casting long shadows. He sifted through fragmented records, piecing together the political and social dynamics that had led to the ancient collapse. Their downfall was not just a war, he whispered to himself, but a failure to reconcile competing visions of progress and survival. He tapped a sequence into his notebook, sending a coded message to Alina and Wren. The parallels with their own expedition were undeniably, deeply troubling. Outside, beneath the vast mural that dominated the central hall, Lyra, the Watcher liaison, stood motionless. Her silver eyes reflected the swirling images of the ancients' final days. "They believed themselves invincible," she said softly, voice like a whisper carried on the wind. "But arrogance and division sowed their destruction. You must learn, or fall as they did." Her words hung in the air, a chilling reminder that the echoes of war were not just history, but an urgent warning. As dawn broke over Cradle, the expedition faced a crossroads. The ancient war's revelations had brought to light not only the past, but the fragile state of their own unity. The planet's secrets demanded respect and caution, yet human nature tugged toward ambition and fear. Alina stood before her team, eyes blazing with determination. We have a choice to heed the lessons of those who came before, or to become the latest echo in a cycle of destruction. The future of humanity may depend on what we decide here, today. The chamber fell silent once more, the weight of history pressing upon them all. Outside, the wind whispered through the ruins, carrying with it the voices of a civilization lost but not forgotten. And somewhere deep beneath their feet, the ancient war's echoes awaited their final reckoning. The harsh hum of the approaching dropships shattered the fragile calm that had settled over the Cradle base camp. Dr. Lyra Miles stood at the edge of the rocky plateau, eyes narrowed against the dusty wind, watching the metallic beasts descend with relentless precision. Her heart pounded not from fear, but from the weight of knowing what was at stake. This planet, their discovery, their hope for humanity's true beginning, was about to be contested in a way none of them had anticipated. "They're coming fast," Kyren reported, his voice steady but tense over the channel. He stood beside Alara, scanning the horizon with disciplined vigilance, muscles coiled like a predator ready to spring. "General Volta's unit is here, and they're not interested in diplomacy." Ilaros' jaw clenched. The man had made his intentions clear: control Cradle's secrets, harness its power, and leverage it for earthly dominance. The expedition's delicate balance was shattering under the weight of raw military force. "All units, prepare for engagement," Alara ordered, her voice cutting through the restless chatter. "Focus on defense, minimize casualties. We're guarding more than just artifacts, we're protecting the future." The camp erupted into a flurry of activity. Scientists transformed into soldiers, technicians manned defense systems, and Kai led the security detail with calculated precision. The ancient ruins loomed behind them, silent witnesses to the storm about to descend. The first breach came moments later. Explosions rocked the perimeter as energy pulses tore through makeshift barricades. Shouts of alarm mixed with the crackle of weapons fire. Alara sprinted toward the command center, weaving through the chaos, her mind racing. "They're pushing hard," Kai reported through clenched teeth as he returned fire, the glow of his non-lethal pulse rifle illuminating the dust-choked air. "We need to hold the central archive at all costs." The archive was the heart of their mission, the repository of holographic records and ancient knowledge. If lost, the expedition's purpose would crumble. Ilara reached the heavy reinforced doors, her hand trembling as she keyed in the access code. Inside, the flickering blue light of dormant holograms bathed the chamber in an otherworldly glow. "We can still de-escalate," Alara said, turning to face the assembled scientists and security personnel. "If we can reach Volta, maybe we can prevent bloodshed." The communicator crackled with incoming transmissions. A cold, authoritative voice filled the room. "This is General Marcus Volta. Cease resistance and surrender control of the Cradle site. Your cooperation will be noted." Alara met the voice with steely resolve. "General, this planet is more than a prize. It holds the legacy of all humanity. We will not let it be exploited." "Then prepare to be removed," Volta replied, and the line went dead. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Without warning, ancient defense drones emerged from hidden alcoves, their sleek metallic forms glinting under the archive's artificial light. Red sensors glowed ominously as mechanical limbs whirred to life. "What the hell?" Lyra Voss exclaimed, stepping back in alarm. "These systems, they're ancient, but fully operational." Kai raised his weapon, but Lyra held up a hand. "Wait, they're activating in response to the conflict. We have to be careful." The drone scanned the intruders, identifying friend and foe alike with chilling efficiency. Laser emitters gleamed as they targeted both expedition members and Volta soldiers who had breached the chamber. Chaos erupted anew. Shots rang out, drones darted between combatants, and the cavernous ruins echoed with a cacophony of conflict. Lyra shouted orders, trying to coordinate a retreat and minimize losses. Amidst the chaos, Kai dragged a wounded teammate behind a fallen pillar, his breath heavy but voice calm. "We're not leaving anyone behind. Not today." Lyra caught sight of Volta advancing toward the archive's core console, intent on seizing control. She blocked his path, their eyes locking in a moment suspended between hostility and mutual recognition of the stakes. "This isn't just about power," Lyra said, her voice low but unwavering. "It's about survival ours and theirs. The ancients built this for a reason." Volta hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing his features, but duty and ambition pushed him forward. The tension mounted as the defense systems intensified, forcing an uneasy standoff. Outside, the battle waned as both sides reeled from the unexpected threat of the ancient technology. Realizing the futility of further bloodshed under these conditions, Volta signaled a ceasefire. Lyra exhaled, relief mingling with the weight of what lay ahead. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "The reckoning is not only with our enemies, but with the legacy we've uncovered." The room fell into a tentative silence, broken only by the soft hum of reactivating holograms. Images of humanity's ancient past flickered, reminding them all of the fragile line between destruction and redemption. As the dust settled, Lyra knew the true battle was just starting, not for control, but for understanding and stewardship of the cradle of civilization itself. "We have to choose carefully," she murmured, eyes fixed on the glowing archive, "because the future depends on it." Outside, the planet watched silently, its ancient heart beating steadily beneath the scars of war and hope alike. The veil lifts. The chamber was silent except for the low hum of the ancient archive systems coming back to life. Dr. Lyra Voss stood at the center, her breath steady despite the torrent of emotions swelling within her. Before her, a vast holographic display unfolded, shimmering ribbons of light twisting into patterns that defied immediate comprehension. Each strand represented millennia of history, encoded in a language both alien and familiar. "It's more than a record," Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's a living memory." Professor Lian Chen stepped closer, adjusting his glasses as he traced the flowing symbols. "These aren't just historical logs," he said thoughtfully. "They reveal a narrative of our ancestors, but not as we imagined." The team gathered around, their faces illuminated by the archive's glow. Myra Talbot's fingers danced over her datapad, capturing streams of genetic sequences interlaced with philosophical treatises. "Look here," she said, pointing. "They engineered themselves post-human evolution wasn't random. It was deliberate, a cosmic experiment." Commander Rian Cade's expression darkened. "So, we're the product of some ancient, interstellar project." Lyra nodded slowly. "And this archive? It suggests that the civilization here chose to erase their own memory, to prevent a catastrophe that could repeat itself." Outside, the alien sky darkened as twin moons rose. The Watchers manifested silently in the periphery, ethereal beings of light and shadow, observing the unfolding revelations. Their presence was at once comforting and unsettling. "They're testing us," Rian said quietly, "to see if we're worthy." The holograms shifted, projecting scenes from a distant past. Vast cities of bioengineered spires, communities of beings seamlessly integrated with technology and nature, and a final, devastating conflict that fractured the civilization's unity. Lian's voice softened. History repeated itself here, as it did on Earth. But this archive offers a chance to learn, to break the cycle. Myra's eyes glistened with tears. "We're not just explorers, we're inheritors of a legacy. The question is, are we prepared for it?" The room fell into contemplative silence. The weight of revelation pressed upon them all, reshaping their understanding of who humanity was and who it might become. Outside, the Watchers' forms shimmered, a silent promise and warning entwined in their spectral glow. And as the veil lifted, the expedition knew their journey was only beginning. The sterile hum of the laboratory filled the air as Dr. Lyra Voss adjusted the calibrated injector, her eyes sharply focused on the petri dish before her. Contained within was a suspension of living cells, the fragile cradle of a potential future. She held her breath, steadying her hands as they moved with practiced precision, introducing the synthesized genetic material, a sequence painstakingly decoded from the ancient archives and delicately merged with contemporary human DNA. Outside the laboratory's reinforced walls, the cradle's twin moons cast a muted glow over the expedition base, their pale light filtering through the translucent surfaces. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with a mixture of scientific rigor and a palpable sense of hope. This was more than a mere experiment. It was a beacon, a tentative step toward a rebirth that bridged the gulf of forgotten origins and the present day. Kai Marino hovered by the holographic projection table, fingers deftly weaving through streams of data. Ancient schematics, painstakingly digitized and translated, intertwined with futuristic designs born of modern technology. The luminous symbols and circuit patterns shimmered in the dimmed light, evoking the ghostly architecture of a civilization long erased from memory. "Look at this," Kai said, voice low but vibrating with excitement. "The way their bioengineering interfaces with technology, it's seamless. We could integrate their designs with our systems, enhance our capabilities beyond anything we've imagined." Amara glanced up, a faint smile tugging at her lips despite the gravity of her work. "It's not just about enhancement," she replied. "It's about evolution, informed by a wisdom that predates recorded history. But we have to tread carefully. The risks are as profound as the possibilities." In a quiet clearing near the ancient archive, Professor Lian Chen sat cross-legged on the cool stone, eyes closed as she absorbed the ambient sounds of the planet. The whispering winds carried faint echoes of long-lost voices, and the ruins behind her seemed to pulse with a subtle life. Her thoughts wandered to the philosophical weight of their endeavor, the merging of past and present, of nature and technology. "What does it mean to be human?" she mused silently, "when our very biology can be rewritten with the codes of an ancient civilization?" Her reflections were interrupted by the steady footsteps of Mara El-Sayed. The expedition leader's presence was commanding, her green eyes sharp beneath the furrowed brow. "Lian," she said softly, "we stand on the threshold of a new era, not just for science, but for humanity itself. The choices we make now will echo through generations." "I know," Lian answered, opening her eyes to meet Mara's unwavering gaze. "And that is why our approach must be guided by more than ambition. It must be tempered with humility." Back at the base, the main hall was filled with the gathered team members. their faces illuminated by the soft glow of overhead lights and the flickering holograms suspended mid-air. Mara stepped forward, every eye drawn to her resolute figure. "Today," she began, "we have achieved something remarkable. The synthesis of ancient bioengineering with modern science is no longer theoretical. We have viable biosamples that could redefine what it means to be human." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mixture of awe, excitement, and unease. Mara continued, her voice steady and resonant. "But with this power comes responsibility. We must ensure that we do not repeat the mistakes that led to the erasure of this civilization. Our future depends on learning from the past, embracing knowledge with care, and respecting the delicate balance of life on Cradle and beyond." Dr. Voss felt a surge of emotion, a blend of pride and apprehension. This was their rebirth, a chance to rekindle a legacy long buried beneath layers of time and silence. Yet, the shadows of history loomed large, reminding them that progress without wisdom could invite catastrophe. As the night deepened, the team returned to their workstations, minds alight with possibilities and questions. The ancient codes whispered their secrets, beckoning humanity toward a new evolutionary path. But the true test lay ahead. Could they navigate the fragile terrain between innovation and preservation, between hope and hubris? Amara lingered by her microscope, watching the cells divide and flourish. In their growth, she saw a metaphor for the expedition itself, tentative, fragile, yet filled with the promise of transformation. "This is only the beginning," she whispered to the silent lab. "The rebirth of humanity, written in the language of stars and ancestors." Outside, the cradle awaited, its ancient heart beating in time with the first stirrings of a new dawn. The excavation site was quiet, save for the gentle scrape of brushes against ancient surfaces and the occasional murmur of voices exchanged in hushed tones. Dr. Mara Ellison crouched low beside a fractured piece of translucent crystal, her fingers working meticulously to clear away centuries of dirt and debris. The crystal was unlike anything they had seen before, jagged yet smooth in places, embedded with faintly glowing inscriptions that pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, as if the artifact itself was alive and breathing. Mara's breath caught in her throat. This was more than a relic. It was a key. "Careful," Jintao whispered, his voice taut with concentration as he adjusted the settings on his wrist interface. The scanner's hum filled the small excavation chamber, a smooth, steady sound that contrasted with the crackling static of their coms. Holographic fragments of ancient city maps shimmered in the air above the dusty ground, casting a pale blue light over the team's focused faces. Each fragment revealed a sliver of the civilization they sought to understand. Winding streets, sprawling complexes, and places of worship that hinted at a rich cultural tapestry. "These inscriptions," Mara said, her voice barely above a whisper, "they're not just decorative. They're part of a language complex and layered." Professor Amina Rashid stepped forward, her tawny eyes gleaming with the thrill of discovery. She carried a digital tablet loaded with preliminary translations, their software designed to piece together the ancient symbols with the fragments they had uncovered so far. "The device appears to store both historical records and philosophical treatises," she explained. "It's a repository of their knowledge and memories." The team gathered around as Amina initiated a sequence to activate the crystalline storage. The artifact responded with a gentle pulse, sending ribbons of light weaving through the dark chamber. Suddenly, projections bloomed in the era tapestry of images, sounds, and text that coalesced into a narrative of the civilization's final days. "Look here," Amina said, pointing to a holographic scene depicting vast assemblies and intricate ceremonies. This tells of societal upheaval, but also resilience. They faced calamities, yet sought unity. Mara's eyes were fixed on the swirling images. It's as if they knew their time was limited, but they fought to preserve what mattered most: their culture, their identity. The mood shifted from awe to somber reflection as the holograms revealed the darker chapters, the conflicts, betrayals, and environmental disasters that fractured the civilization. The echoes of these events resonated deeply with the team, drawing parallels between the ancient struggles and their own challenges on Cradle. Captain Elias Novak, who had been observing quietly, now spoke with measured authority. This knowledge is a gift and a warning. We have to be cautious. The past teaches us not just what was lost, but what can be prevented. As dusk settled over the excavation site, Novak stood overlooking the unearthed relics. The fading sun cast long shadows, and the weight of their discovery settled heavily upon him. The crystalline device's light dimmed, but its message lingered, an imperative for stewardship and vigilance. The chapter closed with Mara carefully placing the crystalline fragment into a protective case. "We've reclaimed fragments of a forgotten world," she said softly. "Now, the question is, what will we do with them?" The team faced the horizon, their resolve steeled by the revelations they had unearthed, but mindful of the fragile balance between knowledge and consequence. The echoes of the past had been reclaimed, but their true impact was only just beginning to unfold. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Jintao and his team worked tirelessly to stabilize the crystalline data device. Every scan revealed new layers of encoded information, from architectural blueprints to philosophical treatises that challenged the very foundations of human understanding. The technology was alien yet familiar, blending organic and synthetic elements in ways that defied conventional science. Mara coordinated the archaeological effort with precision. Each artifact recovered was catalogued, scanned, and cross-referenced against the growing database. The scattered fragments told a story of a civilization that had mastered both science and art, thriving in harmony with their environment until forces beyond their control unraveled their society. Professor Rashid's translations grew more profound by the day. She discovered texts describing rituals of remembrance and warnings against hubris, passages that seemed eerily prescient in the context of their current expedition. In one particularly haunting passage, a poet lamented, "Memory is a fragile flame, easily snuffed, but vital to the soul's survival." Tensions simmered beneath the surface as the team debated how much of their findings should be shared with the outside world. Some, like Captain Novak, advocated for discretion, fearing political and corporate exploitation. Others pushed for transparency, believing that humanity had a right to reclaim its true origins. Late nights were filled with heated discussions around the campfire, the flickering flames mirroring the uncertain future that awaited them. Mara often found herself caught between the pragmatic caution of the leadership and the idealistic zeal of the researchers. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the horizon, Mara and Amina sat together beneath the stars. "Do you ever wonder," Amina mused, "if our ancestors left these messages not just to be found, but to test us, to see if we could learn from their mistakes?" Mara nodded slowly. "It's a burden and a blessing, but we must try, for their sake and ours." As the expedition pressed onward, the fragments they reclaimed were more than relics. They were voices from a distant past, urging a new generation to remember and to choose wisely. The chapter ended on a note of hopeful determination, with the team poised at the threshold of deeper understanding, aware that every discovery carried the weight of responsibility. Despite the progress, challenges loomed. Environmental sensors detected subtle shifts in the planet's biosphere, and unexplained interference occasionally corrupted data streams. Rumors circulated of the Watcher's renewed vigilance, a reminder that Cradle's secrets were guarded fiercely. The team's cohesion was tested as ideological divides deepened. Mara, Jin, Amina, and Novak each wrestled with their own doubts and convictions. Yet, amid uncertainty, they remained united in purpose, driven by the fragments they had reclaimed and the stories waiting to be told. The chapter closed with a final scene in the archive chamber. The crystalline device, now stabilized, pulsed with a steady glow. Around it, the team gathered, ready to unlock the next layer of Cradle's ancient legacy. The air hung thick with anticipation. "We stand on the shoulders of giants," Mara said softly. "It's our turn to carry the torch." And with that, the echoes of the past set the stage for the future.